The first half of the 1990s is to this day rightly described as the too much, too soon era when it comes to rookie contracts. Since there was no rookie scale, incoming first-year players had a lot of leverage and were able to get big money. Forward Larry Johnson signed a 12-year, $84 million deal with the Charlotte Hornets, while center Shawn Bradley was on the books for $44.2 million over 8 years from Philadelphia 76ers. Negotiations with rookie agents in that period were so crazy that forward Derirck Coleman rejected an 8-year, $69 million deal tabled by the Nets, while forward Glenn Big Dog Robinson signed a 10-year, $68 million deal with the Milwaukee Bucks after he demanded as much as $100 million over 13 years. These figures might not seem much by today's standards, but when you consider that the salary cap from 1990 to 95 ranged between 12 and 16 million and that these players, despite all their talents, were just rookies, you get the idea why things might have been a little wild. Despite all of those mind-boggling figures, one contract situation might have changed the course of a career and especially one franchise. Let's check out Chris Webber's NBA journey. What up everybody, my name is Stefan and this is Heat Check. Let's get into it. In 1993, the Orlando Magic barely missed the playoffs, which meant that they had very low chances of getting a high lottery pick. However, the lottery gods were on their side and the franchise overcame a 1 in 66 odds to once again get the #1 pick. It was widely believed that they would add Michigan's Chris Webber, who according to most people was the clear #1 pick. The power forward had been an integral part of the infamous Fab Five in college alongside Juwan Howard, Jalen Rose, Jimmy King, and Ray Jackson. With him next to Shaquille O'Neal, the Magic's 1992 #1 pick, they would dominate the physical 90s, right? Management though had other plans. Though they did select Webber first, they traded him on draft night to the Golden State Warriors for the 3rd pick, Anthony Penny Hardaway. The trade was done thanks in some part to Shaq's urging and also a spectacular workout by Penny. That meant Webber was headed to the Bay Area to play under head coach Don Nelson, who was also the GM. Though his rookie deal wasn't that crazy by, as we said before, the standards at the time, $74.5 million over 15 years, what was interesting was that it included an opt-out clause after year 1. Webber had a fine first season, averaging 17.5 points and 9 rebounds per contest, winning the Rookie of the Year award. His 36-point, 13-rebound, and 6-block performance against, ironically, the Sacramento Kings was a standout performance. Yet, what's most memorable from his rookie year is the famous behind-the-back dunk on none other than the Phoenix Suns' Charles Barkley. Though the Warriors had a good foundation, which also included Chris Mullin and Latrell Sprewell, two of their other key players, point guard Tim Hardaway and Lithuania's Šarūnas Marciulionis, were injured the whole 93-94 season. In the playoffs, Barkley would get his revenge at a team level when his Suns swept the Warriors in the first round. Yet, the biggest problem was the clash between Nelson and Webber. The situation got so bad that, according to the owner at the time, Chris Cohen, the power forward asked for Nelson to be removed as head coach. Cohen ultimately sided with Nelson. Therefore, Webber was sent to the Washington Bullets, renamed the Wizards several years later. That meant that he and his Fab Five teammate Juwan Howard were reunited. Though C-Webb's first 2 seasons in Washington were marred by injuries, just 69 games combined, he balled when he was on the court, with averages of 21 points and 9 boards per game. His passing talents too surfaced, as evidenced by his 4.8 assists per contest over that period. But it was in the following season when he started to put it all together, playing more than 70 games and averaging a double-double of 22 points and 10 boards per game, in addition to 4.5 assists every night he was on the court. His fine play was acknowledged when he became an all-star for the first time in his career. Yet, by the end of the following season, Webber's 4-year stint in the capital had produced just 1 playoff appearance, a first-round sweep in 1997 by the eventual champions, the Chicago Bulls. Webber's time in Washington, however, included notable performances. Among them were his revenge game against Golden State, in which he had a 40-10-10 triple-double. Also, a 22-20 game against the Los Angeles Lakers, albeit in a Washington loss. And a 34-13 against the Seattle Supersonics, also in a loss. There were nonetheless some off-court issues too. Among them was the first time when he was charged with 6 traffic violations and 3 misdemeanors, including possession of marijuana and second-degree assault. So when C-Webb was traded to the Sacramento Kings in '98 for Mitch Richmond and Otis Thorpe, then Bullets GM Wes Unseld initially said that off-court problems had hardly any impact on the decision to trade the power forward. However, as he later added, "I'm not going to say it wasn't a factor." Webber didn't want to head to the Kings, but the fans embraced him and he hit the ground running. He started 42 of the 50 games in the lockout-shortened season, averaging 20 points and a league-leading 13 rebounds per game. For his efforts, he was named to the All-NBA second team. The Kings, owners of 27-23 record, finished 6th and made the playoffs for only the second time in 13 years. There, despite battling the Utah Jazz until the very end, they lost in the final game of the first round. The 99-2000 season were Chris's official coming out party though. Playing and starting 75 games, he averaged 24.5 points and 10.5 boards. Performances such as the one against the Pistons when he had 39 points to go alongside 11 rebounds were among the reasons why he was an All-Star once again and part of the All-NBA third team. Yet again, however, his Kings lost in the final game of the first round, this time succumbing to the eventual champions, the Los Angeles Lakers. If the 99-2000 was Webber's coming out party, then the following one was when he became a household name. By this time, it had become common for Webber to be an All-Star. Yet, what would follow was something to behold. The power forward averaged 27 points and 11 rebounds. His standout game was against Indiana when he went off for 51 points and 26 rebounds, both career highs, in what unfortunately for the Kings ended in an overtime loss to the Pacers. Webber was now a member of the All-NBA first team, ahead of greats such as Kevin Garnett, Karl Malone, and Dirk Nowitzki. He even finished 4th in the MVP race. The postseason, though, would see another loss to the Lakers, this time a sweep in the second round. It should be nonetheless noted that many consider that 2001 Los Angeles side to be among the greatest of all time. Despite that, Kings management felt that they were on the road to dethroning their California rivals. So, in the summer, they re-signed Webber to a 7-year deal worth $122 million and got Grizzlies' Mike Bibby in a package that involved Jason White Chocolate Williams. In the 01-02 season, Rick Adelman's men, which included Vlade Divac, Doug Christie, and Peja Stojakovic as well, quickly made their presence felt, thanks in no small part to their team spirit and contagious passing, which was possible because both Webber and Divac, despite their height, were fine passers. The Kings had the best record in the league, winning 61 games, so it wasn't surprising when they made it all the way to the Western Conference Finals. The opponent, once again, were the Lakers. Many believed whoever came out of the West would be the eventual champion, regardless of whether the opponent from the Eastern Conference would be the New Jersey Nets or Boston Celtics. Webber continued to dominate, especially in Game 2, with 21 points and 13 rebounds and also 5 blocks. Game 3, 26 and 9, and Game 5, 29 and 13. All Sacramento wins. The Lakers would ultimately prevail though, winning Game 7 on the road. That series is remembered mostly for Robert Horry's game-winning 3 at the buzzer in Game 4, the Lakers showing their never-say-die attitude, but also, according to almost all Kings fans and some experts, suspicious officiating. Yet, when it comes to Webber, we simply must mention something that was obvious during that series and the potential reason behind that, despite his averages of 24.3 points and almost 11 boards in the series. In the final stages of the games, especially Game 4 and Game 7, the power forward seemed to shy away from the clutch moments, and even if he had the rock, a majority of the time he had trouble delivering. It was mostly Mike Bibby who was responsible for clutch shots. In the fourth quarter of Game 4, Webber had 4 points. Though that might not seem a little, and he shot 50% from the field, many rightly felt that he should have been more assertive and demanded the ball to prevent the Lakers' comeback. Game 7 was especially ugly. In the fourth quarter and overtime combined, Webber once again had just 4 points, making just 2 of 9 shots. This is where we return to his final college game. Towards the end of the title matchup against North Carolina, with Michigan down by 2, Chris got a rebound with 19 seconds to go. First he traveled, but the referees didn't call it. Then, trapped by the North Carolina defense with 11 seconds to go, he called a timeout, but Michigan didn't have any. That meant a technical foul which ended all hopes of the NCAA title for the Fab Five. First things first, Sixers, drawing a direct parallel between that infamous timeout and the somewhat legitimate perception that C-Webb didn't have the clutch gene would represent jumping to conclusions. Yet, all things considered, it's safe to say that that situation, at such a tender age and on such a huge scene, had to have had at least little impact on his further approach to the game in the fourth quarter down the line. When speaking of his Michigan experience, we also must mention that the university had to erase the wins following the revelations that the power forward and other players took huge amounts of money from booster Ed Martin, but that's a topic for some other time. Back to the 02-03 Kings now. At the start of the season, the Kings felt that they let one get away, so they felt that come June, they would be the ones hosting the Larry O'Brien Trophy. But the injury gods intervened. In the conference semifinals against the Dallas Mavericks, Webber injured his knee, which was a devastating blow to the Kings' championship hopes and would eventually shut down their championship window. Sure enough, the Kings succumbed to Dirk Nowitzki, Steve Nash, Nick Van Exel, Michael Finley, and company. In 03-04, Webber, without his explosiveness, appeared in just 23 games, with his point average at 18.7, that is, under 20 for the first time since his rookie season. Though the Kings would get some revenge against the Mavs in round 1 of the following season, they once again lost in the conference semifinals, this time to the Minnesota Timberwolves. By this time, it had become clear that Webber was not the same player. So in February of 05, the Kings traded him to the Sixers, whose management was hoping he would bounce back and form a scary 1-2 punch with the answer. Though he averaged 20.2 points and almost 10 rebounds in 75 games in his first full season in Philadelphia, the Sixers didn't make the playoffs. The previous year, they'd been eliminated by the Pistons in the first round. His final 2 stops were Detroit itself after a buyout with the Sixers in January of 07, and once again the Golden State Warriors, ironically coached by Nelson, in January of 08. He said in a statement, "It is with great pride and humility that I announce my return to the Golden State Warriors, the place where it all started." Yet his stay there was short-lived. The power forward, battling chronic knee problems, retired in March of 08. Look, Webber's career is nothing to scoff at, being part of 5 All-NBA teams and as many All-Star sides, winning Rookie of the Year, and being an integral component of one of the most fun sides in recent NBA history, the early 2000 Kings of course, is nothing that should be degraded. Yet, when it comes to Webber, especially prior to that 2003 injury, we as fans feel a little bit cheated. Now, when it comes to how much of that is a combination of factors such as the trade which prevented him from teaming up with a young Shaq, whether it was his off-court troubles in Washington, whether it was the sad fate of that Kings team, or something else, the debate will continue to live on. Let me know in the comments what you think of Chris Webber's career. That's it for now. Subscribe and talk to you in the next one. Peace out.